How's it going, guys? This is Chris with MajorHiFi, and today we're going over the Meze 109 Pro. So this didn't come out too long ago, didn't come out too recently. It came out, I think, towards the end of the summer this year. So this got a MajorHiFi Gold when we did the written review, and I'm going to spend some time today going over some of the technical specs that kind of make this a bit of like a new beast coming from Meze. And then I'm going to spend a good amount of time talking about what it sounds like. So stick around because we'll be getting into that now. The 109 Pro is the most open back unit from Meze Audio to date. It might look a lot like the closed back 99 Classics with its walnut wood housing, and generally does have a very similar look and feel, but it would be a bit of a misnomer to call the 109 Pro just an open back 99. It's a very different headphone with its own unique technical design elements. The 109 Pro features a newly designed 50mm dynamic driver with a W-shaped dome made of carbon fiber enforced cellulose composite that cuts down high-frequency resonances and harmonic distortion. Further suppressing unwanted resonances is a beryllium-coated semi-crystalline polymer surrounding its W-shaped dome. Copper zinc alloy composes the stabilizer around the driver's membrane, and a high-precision aluminum frame encases the diaphragm along with the neodymium magnet. These serve to, you guessed it, control resonance and also provide a sturdy structural support for the 109 Pro's driver. As for physical build, you have walnut wood composing the housing, manganese steel for the frame, vegan leather for the suspension headband, and a very pleasant velour for the ear pads. I landed a unit for this review, but couldn't get a proper box, so just take my word for it when I say what it comes with. A zipper hard case, two 3.5mm cables measuring 3 meters and 1.5 meters, a 1/4 inch or 6.3mm adapter jack, and a vegan leather cable pouch. Lastly, it's worth mentioning that the 109 Pro has a low impedance at 40 ohms, making it quite easy to drive. So we can spend a minute talking about how these guys look and feel. So look-wise, I think you would be hard-pressed to find somebody who finds these ugly. I think they're extremely elegant-looking headphones. They obviously look a lot like the 99s from Meze, if you're familiar with those. They have this walnut wood on them, and then also this like bronze color on the side with the Meze logo, and this really nice looking leather headband. Look-wise, it's kind of a mix of rustic and metallic, but I would say it's the wood that mostly dominates the style. I know when I was reviewing the Solitaire T, I said that I liked it because you couldn't really tell if it was a $300 headphone or a $1,600 headphone, but that's not really the case with these. These kind of look their price, and maybe a little more. I think that these are very fancy, kind of flashy looking headphones, but not at all in a tacky way. They're genuinely pretty elegant looking and pretty sophisticated. Probably more importantly than that, they feel great. So this suspension headband really contributes to how lightweight these feel. Also, it's just like the second that you put it on, this headband just has great calibration for it. I don't feel like the headphones are like sagging down onto my ears too much, and there's just the right amount of tension so that it doesn't feel tight on my head. It's just very well balanced. Then also the clamp pressure is really nice on these. I don't find it particularly tight, but it still feels secure. Can stay on my head with a few shakes. And then on top of that, really the highlight where when I've shown these to people, it's kind of like the first thing that everybody comments on is how comfortable these ear pads are. These are velour ear pads. They have like this nice, firm, plush density that sits well against your head pressure-wise. And then also they're just incredibly soft. If you've had the experience to try the kind of famous like DT770 80 ohm pads, those are known for being really comfortable velour, kind of remind me of that. So very high marks in look and also feel. As far as staging and imaging goes, I would say that the staging is fairly impressive. I would describe it as a shape that's kind of like 270 degrees. It surrounds your face, but then also there are times with really wide pans where you kind of feel parts like coming over your shoulders. So, that's always a nice feature. But what I think impresses me more than the staging is actually the imaging with it, which I would describe as fluid. And I really do mean that literally, not just that it has nice imaging, but literally it has like a certain like liquid quality to it. I was listening to the album Currents by Tame Impala with this, and I'm gonna talk about that album a little more because I just found that the 109 Pro sat really well with it. And the 109 Pro really brought out the like gooey sort of characteristics of that album, and kind of felt like parts were like wobbling on my head. So that's kind of what I mean by the fluid description. It really does have like a liquid character to it, and I thought that was very entertaining and also like contributes to giving it its own personality, which is a good place for us to start talking about the balance, because I really feel like the balance is something really refreshing to see with a headphone like this. I feel like a lot of open backs that you see in this price range are kind of like analytical sound characters or kind of flat sound characters, which is cool. I'm a fan of those. And maybe some of you are going to disagree with that and post a ton of examples of really spunky open backs. I'm not saying all open backs in this price range go for that like cut and dry analytical sound, but in my experience, that is a lot of what you come across. And I wouldn't call the 109 Pro like a cut and dry sort of sound character. It's actually very much the opposite. It has a lot of its own color. I would say it strongly colors the tracks that you listen to, and that's what makes it fun. That's what makes it a fun headphone. So I would say that with lows, it's the sort of experience where you don't necessarily they don't necessarily jump out at you immediately, but when you listen to the right track, to go back to my Currents example, I was listening to the track Nengs off of that, which starts with this really, really deep, like throbbing synth bass, and it like woke up the subs in the 109 Pro. So the 109 Pro isn't exactly quiet in the bass region, and it's not in your face loud, but with the right tracks, I feel like they kind of like wake up this like sleeping giant that's like in the low end of the 109. So I would say it has some good like rumbly characteristics. I didn't really get that like mid-bass slam from it, but I didn't really miss it either. It's just not that kind of headphone. But I did get really nice rumble from it, and it has a really nice thick bass when it's able to bring it out. But I see it as kind of like a supporting feature to like the stars of the show, which I would say are the mids and the treble, and like the balance that those two strike with each other. I would say that the mids profile gives it this kind of subtle warmth, and then the treble profile makes it really snappy. And I feel like frequently those terms are somewhat mutually exclusive, calling something warm and also calling something snappy. But the 109 Pro kind of makes it happen anyway. So I don't want to overemphasize the warm element of this mids balance. I see it as kind of like an aftertaste, like when you're listening for a while, you kind of start to notice. It doesn't like jump right out, at your face that this has like louder, lower mids or anything like that. And, usually I'm actually pretty critical of frequency profiles that are putting emphasis in the low mids. I find that the low mids is a pretty dangerous game to play. A lot of the times, it's usually where a lot of the mud is in tracks, between like, let's say 200, 400 hertz. So if you bring that up too much, you don't really get a good sound. You get a kind of dirty sound. But I think that the 109 Pro strikes a really good balance with it. It does it just a little tiny bit. And I noticed it the most on snare drums, I would say, where the deeper fundamental, like before they crack it's like the thump of the snare drum that I really heard this on. And then I also heard it in vocals where, you know, the fundamental gets brought up a little bit, but this is where like the highs start to come into play, because it brings up the vocal fundamental, but then it really brings up the air in vocals. The treble profile and, you know, high mids included in that find a lot of emphasis, and I think it's ultimately what's giving the 109 Pro like a unique color and a unique character. It's airy, but also it's really snappy. Like that was a feature that really stuck out to me, and I think it's this emphasized treble along with seemingly a really good response time that really gives it like a snappy quality. You know, like hand claps, snaps, that sort of like higher pitched percussion. This spits it out and then doesn't hold on to it. It's like once it's gone, it's gone. You know, another thing that I really liked about this high end was that I don't think it really took sibilance out of the equation. It didn't emphasize sibilance, but it kind of played with sibilance rather than like trying to subdue it. I thought that it had a kind of like artful representation of it where rather than being harsh, it ended up sounding very intimate, like kind of like that ASMR sort of sound of, you know, the speaker feeling like they're right there up next to your ear. And, you know, you hear all of their little mouth clicks and, you know, wet mouth sounds. And yeah, so I think that's another like unique characteristic that it had to it. It didn't suppress sibilants. It didn't emphasize them either, but yeah, it played with them. It was like an artful way of handling them, I guess. Just to recap some of the sound profile that we went over, you know, fairly expansive soundstage, you know, not the widest, but it's more than adequate. I appreciated, you know, just how much it wrapped around my head, that kind of like 270-degree angle. Really, really fluid imaging. I think the imaging is even more impressive than the soundstage. Really accurate. Low end kind of plays a bit of a supporting role, but it's still fun. You can get like a rumble out of this thing. Not a whole lot of slam, but I honestly don't really hold it against it. You know, somewhat warm mids. Again, not to overemphasize this, I would call the mids actually maybe a little closer to balance, but there is a touch of warmth that gives it a unique character. And then finally, treble, they kind of like high mids and highs, very boosted, very impactful and snappy, and yeah, airy too, but really snappy is what comes to mind when I think of the 109 Pro. Also want to mention, it's nice to see this price point from Meze. I'm not too aware of other releases that came out, you know, in like the $800 price range. I'm sure they exist. I just don't know of every single last Meze release. But, you know, a lot of the headphones that we're made aware of, you know, us as a general community are, you know, they're more expensive ones, so like $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 ones. And then, you know, people know about the 99 Classics, the Meze Neo, the stuff like that. That's like $200, $300, maybe when it was released, like $400 range. So yeah, it's nice to see something from Meze that goes for $800 and represents that price very, very well. I think that this holds a very high value. It's, I think, audiophile, hi-fi sort of quality at not the most affordable price tag, but not the most terrible, I'll never be able to afford this sort of price tag either. So definitely gets props for that as well. So thank you for watching. I'm putting a link to the Meze 109 Pro to the Audio 46 store down below. Also, you can get 10% off your orders from Audio 46 and also help support the channel. If you use promo code Chris10 at checkout, I'm including that down below as well. And if you want to see more videos, reviews like this, you know, like and subscribe. And that's about it. So I'll see you guys next time.